you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thanks so much for having me tonight. It's really great to be up here speaking to y'all. One thing I want to correct, I'm not a sixth generation Texan. I'm a second generation Texan. My wife is the sixth generation. I want to make sure you know. But I will tell you this.
Can you speak up?
I will tell you this one thing about being a Texan. I've told people the last couple of nights that I'm a real Texan, and I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Number one, I was born in Borger, Texas, up in the Panhandle, and that was in 1953. All right, my wife, she also lived in Borger, Texas. She was born in 56, in 1953. And what I mean by being a real Texan, I've actually been a Texan since before I was born in 1953. And if you don't know what I mean 9 months before I was a real Texan. Amen. So, I've been a judge on the Court of Criminal Appeals since January 1st, 2017. It's been the biggest honor of my life as far as what I've done, you know, professionally. I've really enjoyed it. I've been asked a question recently in one of the events is, what can I tell you to make you realize that I can beat the opponent in the November primary, which I do have a Democrat opponent in the primary, in the November general election. So, here's what I can say. When I ran for office in 2016, it was an open seat. There was 4 Republicans on the ballot, and I got more than twice as many votes in the primary as the number 2 finisher. So that's a big number. And then, of course, I won the runoff election by like 16 percentage points. And then when it came to November, with the Democrat opponent, I beat the Democrat opponent by 1.2 million votes. So I can do it again. I've done it before. So let me back up again to basically my last story from Borger, Texas. My wife and our dads both worked at the same plant. They both got laid off at the same time. We never met while we were there. Not at all. And we lived like just a few doors apart. And we all ended up in Red Oak, Texas, just within a couple of years after leaving. And I think she went to Dallas for a year, I went to Irving for a year, and then ended up in Red Oak, Texas. So I grew up in Red Oak, both of us, and I guess the main reason I want to tell you that is, that's strange. 400 miles, we lived doors apart, didn't meet, but then we met after that. It's not just a coincidence. God has a plan for my life and yours and all of our lives. And that makes it very clear that God has a plan for our lives. And I believe that God was very much involved in the election of 2016, and God was very much involved in making sure that I won by the numbers I won by. So, now I want to go back to my election, all the way back up to, when I was elected before. Just a few days, well, let me say this. My wife and I, about 15 years ago, decided to start praying and reading the Bible together every day. We tried to. Now, when I leave the house at 4 o'clock, she's not going to get up at 3 o'clock, so we can make that. But we try to each and every day. All the time when I was running for the office during the election, we just kept flipping the Bible open to verses that said things like, if God is for you, who can be against you? Just verse after verse. Then 2 weeks after getting elected, we flipped the Bible open to another verse, and it was in Amos 5:15. And if you know Amos is a prophetic book. Amos was a prophet. He was telling the Israelites what terrible things are going to happen. So it's not a feel-good book. But the verse that we opened to was this, Amos 5:15. hate evil, love good, and maintain justice on the courts. So I felt God was telling me at that time that my real duty to God and country was to hate evil, love good, and do everything I can to maintain justice on the courts. So every time I write opinions, since we're the highest court in Texas, and all the other criminal courts look to us, every time I write an opinion, every time I vote, I do it in a prayerful attitude, hoping that I can stimulate with what I do, stimulate all the other courts to maintain justice in their courts. Not just ours, but all over the state of Texas. And that has been so important to me. Now, I will say this, when we take the oath of office as judge, we swear that we will protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and Texas and the laws of the United States and Texas, and I can do that and still meet the Amos 5:15, because it is just to follow the Constitution and do what's right, okay? And that is what I try to do, and that's what I have been doing, and that's what I'd love to do for another 6 years. So, Scott Walker, Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. Thank you.